Chosen one, this didn't just appear on your screen by accident. This is a divine interruption. The pressures you've been feeling, the sleepless nights, the strange heaviness, the sense of someone trying to silence your voice, were never proof of weakness. They were signs of how powerful you are. They built systems, whispered rumors, and tried to drain the energy from the very place your truth flows. They thought you were unprotected, that they could bind you. But they underestimated you. You're not defended by ordinary walls. You carry the invisible legacy of ancestors whose prayers are stronger than any spell, whose unseen hands block attacks with surgical precision. That's why, even as they plotted, you survived. That's why the plans they made are backfiring. That's why you still speak, still stand, still breathe. And here's what they didn't see coming. Even Elon Musk, a man known for innovation, disruption, and breaking impossible barriers, is part of the unfolding of this season. In the same way he disrupts industries, heaven is using disruption to release you. This isn't about a random billionaire meeting you. It's about a cosmic signal that your life is shifting. You are the key. The betrayals, the locked doors, the nights no one saw weren't meant to destroy you. They were shaping you. You become a force that can't be muted. Your light is unquenchable, your lineage untouchable, and your destiny unstoppable. Take this as confirmation. You're not imagining it. You've been chosen. And now, the very energy they tried to use to break you is turning into the proof of who you are. Blood magic is real, and your common DNA has been utilized as a highway to circumvent your spiritual barriers. However, your ancestral guard has monitored every spell that was performed, and now they have a huge karmic burden that will ruin their whole existence. This treachery goes beyond basic sibling rivalry or jealousy. This individual has been carefully recording your spiritual practices, taking photographs of your altar setting while you're not home, writing down the precise phrases of prayers you utter aloud, even collecting strands of your hair from brushes and combs. What was being developed is what practitioners refer to as a spiritual dossier, which enables others to precisely build targeted spells that should be difficult to do remotely. In the most painful way conceivable, your family member learned that blood ties are reciprocal. Your ancestral defenders were utilizing that same genetic link to find down all of the conspirators and designate them for extermination, all the while using it to assist practitioners target you. Cosmic justice was able to recognize and methodically eliminate every danger to your mission, because to the precise knowledge that was held about your energy signature. Instead of protecting you, your family members turned into intelligence assets for criminal groups, recording your spiritual activities during family visits, taking pictures of your places of worship when you were not there, and disclosing personal information about your weaknesses and anxieties to those who were skilled at using it to create specific curses. However, your forefathers were also recording everything. All betrayals were documented. Each breach of familial trust was listed. Spiritual leaders, who take such betrayals extremely seriously, have recorded every instance in which protection was denied you when it ought to have been provided. Indeed, with every bit of knowledge you gave your adversaries, the karmic debt this family member was accruing increased tremendously. This relative's realization that the karmic repercussions extended beyond abstract spiritual retribution was the tipping point. The assaults being planned against you started to be reflected in physical forms. Their own voice started to exhibit the same throat issues you were having as a result of their binding spells. Their own respiratory system began to be impacted by the breathing problems intended to weaken you. Their own economic base started to be progressively destroyed by the financial instability intended to undermine your power to defend yourself. Every family get-together, holiday dinner, and casual talk has served as a means of obtaining knowledge. Memorizing energy patterns allowed you to recognize when you feel most protected and when you're most at risk of assault. You wouldn't believe the amount to which the personal information you have about your habits, worries, dreams, and spiritual practices has been used against you. The individual who just passed away wasn't picked at random by their spell that backfired. What seems to be an accident to outside observers is really cosmic justice in action, as your predecessors precisely recognized and destroyed the most deadly threat to your mission. Some voices are shielded by forces that don't bargain. According to the throat chakra binding specialist who is confident about permanently removing your power to speak truth and who has already silenced other selected ones. However, the familial bond is just a single component in a much bigger scheme. Write amen for angelic protection and contribute with a super thank you up to $20. 5. Through a network including compromised guards who smuggle spiritual materials and illegal ritual equipment. Someone in a federal prison has been organizing these assaults across many prisons. This isn't just any old spiritual conflict. This is supernatural organized crime that functions similarly to a business. Although prison communications are monitored, codes that mimicked normal family talks but included precise instructions for identifying and targeting certain people were created. In reality, discussions about caring for grandma's garden were orders on which selected ones to target and what strategies would work best against their specific kind of defense. While conversations about visiting old acquaintances supplied locations for ritual places where collective assaults might be planned, references to family recipes offered lists of ingredients for binding spells. Your refusal to remain silent about observed illegal activity constituted a direct danger to freedom. Your information might result in longer jail terms, reveal continuing criminal networks, and provide evidence that would link instances of witness intimidation, fraud, and identity theft that didn't appear to be connected. Because of your honesty, you posed a threat to whole operations that relied on the quiet of those who had seen their actions. However, since these assaults needed cooperation, there were weaknesses that investigators were starting to take advantage of. Every phone call that was coded produced recorded evidence. Surveillance film was left by each visitor who brought messages. Internal affairs agencies were documenting the security breaches caused by each guard who smuggled items. In reality, the network that seemed to be so advanced was leaving behind evidence that clearly linked the sources of coordination. Additionally, your protection was monitoring these contacts and constructing cases against all those participating in the plot to silence you, not just the direct offenders. Spiritual intelligence that functions far beyond the capacity of human law enforcement was decoding each coded exchange. Evidence was being stored in realms that earthly authorities could never erase or taint. The more closely different investigations have come to the truth, the more intense the assaults on you have become. The spiritual assault against you intensifies each time law enforcement receives a new lead, when someone begins to ask the proper questions, or if evidence relates to their activities. Because conventional intimidation techniques weren't effective on someone with your level of protection, supernatural means were being utilized to attempt to sway court cases, taint investigations, and silence witnesses. Investigators are using your case as the cornerstone to dismantle a whole criminal network that works over state boundaries and use spiritual warfare as a tactic to manipulate evidence and intimidate witnesses. Write amen for angelic protection and contribute with a super thank you up to $20. What was once believed to be a straightforward case of silencing a single selected individual has turned into the basis for a federal probe that will reveal decades-long activities. Promote this video so that other selected individuals may discover their confirmation whether this message is in line with your mission. The stress of seeing spell work ruin their own life rather than yours is going to break someone in their group. Their whole network has been rocked by the passing of their most influential practitioner, and the effects go well beyond just losing a valued asset. People who believed they were untouchable are now finding that they must cope with protection that is governed by regulations that are impossible to comprehend, manage, or overcome. When the individual getting ready to confess recognized that the death in their group would not be an isolated incident, it was the tipping point. Every participant in the elimination process had been designated by your ancestral protection to target you, and the process was carried out systematically in accordance with spiritual procedures that function beyond human notions of compassion or proportionate reaction. The karmic justice that pursues each conspirator doesn't take into account individual circumstances or adhere to worldly time frames. The planned confession was not motivated by regret or shame over what had happened to you, but rather by a survival instinct. seeing friends suffer repercussions, and witnessing magical techniques continuously fail. This individual discovered that investigations were coming from all sides and that your protection actively tracks down former attackers with accuracy that seems normal to outside observers, in addition to protecting against future assaults. While adhering to patterns that anybody familiar with spiritual warfare knows are clearly supernatural. During this time, you weren't only dealing with sporadic challenges or unrelated health issues. Every symptom you had and every challenge you faced, every instance of bewilderment or exhaustion was a part of a planned strategy to progressively erode your commitment while keeping your denial of supernatural targeting credible. The intricacy of their strategy included a great deal of preparation, many participants, and financial outlays that produced evidence trails that investigators could follow when trends emerged. This confessing individual has been seeing the repercussions of their own curse in ways that seem to be especially intended to cause psychological anguish. Your incapacity to talk without choking on words is now a manifestation of the binding spells that were used to cast against your throat chakra. Through a sequence of incidents that seem to be coincidental but follow patterns too exact to be accidental, the financial catastrophe that was intended to be planned for you is methodically depleting their own resources. There is no sorrow or shame behind the confession that is about to surface. It's an instinct for survival. It has come to light that protection is more than simply a defense against potential attackers. It aggressively seeks out former attackers and removes them with accuracy that seems normal to onlookers, but follows patterns that are clearly supernatural to anybody familiar with spiritual warfare. The upcoming disclosure will reveal information that investigators would never have been able to find using conventional methods. The locations of ceremonial sites where, throughout time, some selected ones have been targeted. The names of practitioners with specialized knowledge of certain binding spells. The financial networks that use Bitcoin transactions and shell corporations to finance these activities. Communication techniques that include players who have never met in person and coordinate assaults across many states. Being honest won't protect you from the karmic repercussions of your actions. By eliminating the spiritual protection that comes with working in the shadows, it will hasten the process. Exposure to the full weight of the justice that has been accumulating against them will begin the minute they start speaking with authorities. Every secret that is made public will confirm your suspicion that you are the target of a concerted assault. Every technique that is revealed will demonstrate that your experiences were not coincidental or paranoid, but rather deliberate spiritual warfare intended to obliterate your capacity to carry out your divine assignment. Every identity given will help detectives make connections between clues they have been attempting to put together while working with evidence that doesn't appear to make sense. However, the crucial mistake that would cost you everything was trusting that your protection worked on the basis of human notions of fairness, compassion, and proportionality. Assaulting you. Security measures have been activated in spiritual realms where justice is prompt, unwavering, and intended to safeguard the divine plan against any interference, regardless of the repercussions for those who dare to do so. In federal court, the spiritual dossier your family member produced, which included recording your rituals, gathering your hair, taking pictures of your altar setup, and learning your energy patterns, has been used as proof of the intricate preparation that went into targeting you. Intelligence services are researching ways to comprehend how criminal groups use personal family information as a weapon against specific individuals who pose a danger to their activities. Write Amen for Angela protection and contribute with a super thank you up to $20. Now, they needed to silence your voice to survive. Your throat chakra was their main target. However, it has now developed into something far more potent than the typical human vocal range. Amplification technology has replaced the binding energy that was meant to limit your speech, ensuring that every word you say resonates with frequencies that alter the world surrounding your testimony. Federal investigators are now developing a case that will shock the globe and change the way law enforcement views the relationship between spiritual warfare and organized crime. Their bungled spell work led to a fatality, which sparked an inquiry that has revealed patterns of criminal conduct that authorities are describing as unparalleled in breadth and complexity. The investigation has also revealed linkages across jurisdictional lines in different agencies. All of the activities of a multi-agency task group are being coordinated around your case. Suddenly, seemingly unconnected bank records reveal coordinated cash transfers intended to finance activities using supernatural targeting. Coded conversations that coordinate assaults across great distances are being discovered in phone records that seemed normal. A network of practitioners that migrate from target to target like hired spiritual assassins is being exposed by seemingly benign travel patterns. However, you're not going inside that federal building in search of justice or in the hopes that authorities would take allegations of harassment by supernatural beings seriously. You are coming in as a person who is the embodiment of justice itself, whose experiences have been confirmed by confessions, whose testimony is backed up by proof of every detail of fought spiritual battle, and whose voice carries the authority of someone who has been through the most well-planned attacks and come out on top, not defeated. There is more to preparing your testimony than just going over the facts and arranging the evidence. You're entering a realm of spiritual strength that has been developing throughout this whole experience. It has been like putting spiritual ammo into a celestial weapon every time a prayer has been spoken during an assault. You have been preparing for this fight, where your words would truly change the reality around the legal processes ever since you decided to put truth above comfort. Your testimony is more than just proof to back up criminal charges. You're directing the collective power of all the forefathers who have resisted injustice, all the chosen ones who have resisted being silenced, and all the forces of light that have fought organized darkness. Divine justice itself resonates with the harmonics of your speech. Furthermore, such frequencies intensify during judicial hearings in ways that are not appropriate for terrestrial courtrooms. Even skeptic federal agents are persuaded that your experiences indicate something more than typical criminal conduct by the phenomena investigators working on your case have started to see, which contradicts conventional law enforcement training. There are seemingly miraculous conditions that allow evidence that should have been destroyed to remain intact. Under oath, witnesses who had intended to lie are forced to disclose the truth. Technical malfunctions that target certain devices at the exact times when such access becomes essential for establishing cases make digital communications that were encrypted beyond the scope of standard recovery techniques accessible. An extensive underground economy centered on silencing chosen ones whose missions pose a danger to organized oppressive regimes, corrupt organizations, and criminal activities has been exposed as a result of your case. Federal task groups that especially look into networks of supernatural harassment that operate beyond state and national borders have made the death that sparked your narrative their cornerstone. However, the cosmic importance goes beyond apprehending criminals or revealing paranormal harassment schemes that target holy messengers. The cosmos formally acknowledges that concerted assaults against chosen ones set off automatic protection reflexes that function with deadly efficiency and total authority, thanks to your voice speaking truth in that courtroom. Write in for angelic protection and contribute with a super thank you up to $20. This is known by spiritual authorities as a divine precedent. Your testimony creates what federal prosecutors privately refer to as supernatural corroboration, in which practitioners immediately confess to casting the exact spells you described using techniques that precisely match your descriptions. This would not be possible unless your experiences were entirely real and truthfully reported. The more closely different investigations came to the truth, the more desperate the assaults became. The spiritual assault against you became stronger each time law enforcement received fresh leads. Someone began to ask the correct questions, or proof emerged linking activities. Because conventional intimidation techniques weren't effective on someone with your degree of protection, supernatural means were being utilized to stifle witnesses, taint investigations, and influence court processes. Desperation, however, caused them to act carelessly, which further demonstrated their aim and synchronization. The more feverishly you were attacked, the more evidence of coordinated preparation was produced. Each spell left digital traces of collaboration, resource sharing, and communication. Materials that produced paper trails were required for each rite. Each practitioner turned into a possible witness who may be called upon to testify. Investigators have used your case as the cornerstone to dismantle cross-state criminal networks that use spiritual warfare to manipulate evidence and intimidate witnesses. What seemed to be a straightforward case of one selected individual being silenced has become the basis for federal investigations, revealing decades-long activities. This story's victim wasn't merely their most accomplished practitioner. It was the you who once questioned if you were really selected, whether you had what it took to carry out your heavenly destiny, and whether you were protected. Their death spell turned into your resurrection power, converting all of the limitations you had previously accepted into boundless potential that is now showing out in ways that are changing the world around you. Following your evidence, federal indictments led to convictions that rocked many criminal networks and sent a message to the supernatural underground that attacking whomever you choose has immediate, irrevocable, and total repercussions. However, the true triumph isn't quantified by jail time or convictions. It is shown by the whole change in the dynamics of spiritual warfare, which now shields all chosen ones from ever having to endure coordinated assaults similar to the ones you experienced. The member of your family who planned the treachery that began this whole tragedy has seen their life fall apart piece by piece as all of their relationships have crumbled under the weight of their karmic obligation. Your health declined in ways that mirrored the same thing that was attempted to harm your throat chakra. A fundamental imbalance was corrected when financial resources vanished via a sequence of seemingly random incidents that matched patterns too exact to be anything else than cosmic justice. The most exquisite feature of their devastation, however, is that it is taking place right in front of everyone who may have thought of imitating them. The consequences of using blood ties as a weapon against divine messengers are being seen directly by other possible traitors in Chosen One families. For anybody who may have been considering similar betrayals, the message is unmistakable, unquestionable, and horrifying. The individual organizing the assault from the federal jail found that spiritual levels, where ancestor guards have unrestricted power, are not protected by protective custody. Unexpectedly added charges have lengthened their sentence in ways that guarantee they will never again be able to threaten those they have selected. More significantly, however, karmic repercussions have resulted in the irreversible loss of the magical talents that previously provided power. Every restriction that was put on you has been turned into revolutionary energy that is propelling you to heights of impact and influence that no one ever intended you to achieve. Every curse has turned into a gift that is unlocking doors that people had wished to keep closed. Your connection to power sources that function beyond comprehension or interference has only become stronger with each effort to drain your vitality. Your story's social media viral explosion caused a global awakening among the chosen ones that surpassed all expectations about the speed at which truth travels when it is backed by indisputable proof. Within hours, videos of you talking about your experiences had millions of views. Other selected individuals acknowledged their own experiences in your testimony in the comment sections. When individuals discovered they weren't the only ones undergoing organized spiritual attacks, support organizations sprung up on their own. But the practitioners who had been earning a career by pursuing selected individuals for criminal organizations were the ones who really suffered when your tale went public. Mass practice desertion started when they saw the death of one of their most talented colleagues, saw their techniques thoroughly exposed, and realized that their protective spells provided no protection against ancestral guardians with cosmic power. The discovery that divine messengers carry protection that not only deflects assaults, but also removes threats with prejudice has upended the supernatural underworld that formerly flourished on frightening, selected ones into silence. Your story began with a death, but it has now evolved into a warning message that has reached practitioner networks more quickly than any advertising effort could have. In both the spiritual and law enforcement worlds, Your voice has gained legendary status. Training programs now utilize your case as the standard for recording, investigating, and prosecuting crimes with spiritual motivations, since you were the one whose testimony helped close the gap between criminal prosecutions and supernatural experiences. Your techniques for identifying coordinated assaults are already accepted practices for safeguarding other selected ones. Beyond the tangible results of your triumph, however, the cosmic equilibrium between light and dark has changed fundamentally. The universe has formally acknowledged that those who are chosen are protected by God, which reacts to dangers with overwhelming power. All heavenly messengers are now protected against coordinated assaults by the same security standards that were put in place to safeguard you. The inquiry that began with your case has developed into an ongoing task force that focuses on criminal groups that try to utilize paranormal techniques to intimidate witnesses, manipulate evidence, or silence those who pose a danger to their operations. Not just one case was resolved by your testimony. It protected numerous future victims by establishing legal processes for pursuing supernatural harassment and creating a whole new type of federal offense. Your discovery has set off what cosmic authorities refer to as universal protocol updates, in which the basic guidelines for protecting divine messengers have been permanently improved to keep future targeting attempts from ever becoming as sophisticated as the one that was launched against you. Officially acknowledged by the universe, selected ones are protected by a system that reacts to coordinated assaults with enormous defensive power, eliminating enemies instead of just diverting them. Cosmic forces have reverse-engineered the spell components that were particularly designed to target your unique energy signature, turning them into templates for recognizing and disarming similar assaults before similar techniques may hurt other selected ones. Your sorrow has turned into a model for avoiding suffering in the future for all divine messengers who bring truth that challenges established oppressive and corrupt institutions. The defenses you triggered by surviving this concerted attack are ingrained in the spiritual DNA of every selected person born from this point forward. Not only did your triumph save your voice from being forever muted, because the universe now sees these assaults as dangers to the divine plan itself and reacts with enormous protective power, it ensured that no future chosen one would ever have to wage the same war you did. The most significant change, however, goes beyond personal safety and into a collective awakening where millions of people are realizing their own experiences in your testimony and realizing for the first time that mysterious challenges in their lives may not be the result of personal failures or bad luck, but rather of coordinated attacks against their divine missions. Your story's viral explosion on internet media has developed into much more than a spiritual warfare awareness campaign. As a result of a worldwide shift in consciousness, the general public has come to understand that spiritual warfare is a contemporary issue that affects millions of chosen individuals who are carrying out divine missions in the modern era, while confronting sophisticated opposition that uses supernatural means. Authorities' response to these instances has completely changed, reflecting a new understanding of the relationship between criminal justice institutions and spiritual truths. Your verified experiences have established procedures that take supernatural targeting seriously and look into such allegations with the same rigor as any other kind of organized harassment, when before such complaints would have been written off as mental health problems or unrelated problems. Because of your success, legal frameworks now acknowledge spiritual warfare as a valid kind of criminal conspiracy, especially when it is used to intimidate witnesses, sway court decisions, or quiet those who have information that might jeopardize criminal activities. There will be legal redress and investigation procedures available to future chosen ones who experience similar assaults that weren't in place before to the opening of your case. These networks also allow the public to examine their practices. Your voice has never had a more potent amplification system than the death charm that was meant to permanently silence you. All of the binding elements that were designed to tighten your throat chakra are now cosmic broadcasting devices that guarantee your words are heard in realms where divine justice is supremely powerful. Practitioners who believed that their knowledge of voice magic was complete learned that some selected ones had frequencies that are unconstrained by either supernatural or worldly restrictions. The repercussions for your family member who violated your trust and recorded your spiritual activities for criminal groups are now precisely what was meant for you, but intensified by karmic multiplication, which follows cosmic mathematics instead of human notions of proportionate justice. Federal investigations have turned every picture of your holy area that was sent to practitioners into evidence. DNA proof proving intimate family participation in coordinated supernatural harassment has been created from every hair strand gathered for binding spells. Prison walls are no defense against cosmic justice, which has unrestricted authority over all spheres of existence, as the federal prisoner who planned assaults using coded communications and illegal spiritual materials has learned. Their term has been stretched beyond any potential harm to their loved ones in the future due to additional charges that appear out of nowhere. More importantly, however, karmic punishment has permanently severed the magical skills that formerly provided control over criminal networks and authority over other prisoners. Their main target for binding spells meant to mute your testimony and take your breath was your throat chakra, but it has now developed into something that is more than just a typical human voice organ. The energy that was meant to limit your speech has been converted into amplification technology, which makes sure that every word you say resonates with frequencies that alter the world to fit your statements. The cosmos itself reorganizes to back up your claims with facts, witnesses, and situations that corroborate your testimony when you speak the truth today. This whole discovery began with a death that wasn't just any random victim of a miscast spell. Cosmic justice was served when the greatest threat to your mission was surgically removed, sending a strong message to anybody who would think of attacking chosen ones in the future. The protection of your ancestors functions similarly to a cosmic security system, detecting dangers before the chosen ones even realize danger is nearing their missions. Each selected individual who hears your narrative identifies previously unidentified aspects of their own experience. Some inexplicable pauses in vocal strength during important discussions. Those mornings when, for no apparent medical cause, breathing seemed labored. Those nightmares in which someone seemed to be attempting to take away their communication skills. Your testimony has given them the background information they need to turn their fear into strength and their uncertainty into comprehension. You already know the game is rigged, don't you? You can tell the walls are closing in if you're listening. Let's discuss our current course of action. You must be heard, held accountable, and given a fair hand when you spend your life at the mercy of the market, when property and profit rule the land. The things that a people want are these. We also hear you. There are pay barriers in the obsidian inner order. Yes, the people who support us and keep our mission going provide us with the ammo we need to battle the archons, resist the machine, go deeper, and find more. As a token of appreciation, each week, premium members get a 1-hour live, customized group tarot reading, as well as direction, understanding, and clarity for the future. However, we cannot overlook kicking a guy for lying on the ground. Because of this, you may start stealing the Astral Atom unique daily email for free right now. No catch, no paywall. Simply click the link in the description to sign up for the Patreon free tier. This marks the beginning of our bidirectional dialogue with you. Any email we send you may be replied to. We'll read it, listen to you, and do our best to get the cosmos itself to respond. We need your help if you can. Take what's free if you can. The inner order of Obsidian is open. Let's resume our work now. The basic guidelines for protecting divine messengers have been permanently updated as a result of your victory, according to spiritual authorities, so that future targeting campaigns will never be as sophisticated as the one that was launched against you. Officially acknowledged by the universe, selected ones are protected by a system that reacts to coordinated assaults with enormous defensive power, eliminating enemies instead of just diverting them. Your energy field has been changed from every bond into cutting-edge technology that propels your influence to heights much beyond what the initial assaults were intended to stop. Every curse aimed against your goal has turned into a blessing, providing access to audiences, platforms, and possibilities that greatly increase your effect compared to what would have been achievable without their intervention. Now your voice bears the collective authority of all the ancestors who have resisted injustice, all the chosen ones who have refused to be silenced, and all the forces of light that have successfully fought organized darkness. Speaking involves more than merely testifying about a legal activity or expressing personal experiences.